Louise Bedford here. I am very excited about this segment of Mind Over Markets with my co-host, Mr. Jordan Mallor. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to be back for another episode.
Look, this episode is going to be particularly revealing. You're going to want to tune into the whole thing because we have got some specific measures that you can use to combat that little voice inside your head. Self-talk. We all have it, apart from 13% of us actually, but we all have it going through our brain where we've got that good angel and the bad devil on each shoulder, and it goes through our head. Are we doing the right thing? The self-doubt, the self-abuse. And maybe also the ego. So it's all to do with self-talk for this episode. Now, Jordan, as you know, with this segment, we are looking to really sculpt mental clarity because with clarity comes good trading. So are you ready? Are you ready, my friend, to get into self-talk?
Yeah,
Lovely,
terrified
lovely.
that you said this is going to be revealing, but ready.
Because
Ready
I
to
think
go.
you know that when I say this is going to be revealing, that actually means that I'm going to be grilling you. And you would be quite right, my friend, quite right. So I don't know who this person is whispering in her ear, but she does look a little concerned. Now, firstly, Jordan, I have to ask you, can you hear that voice inside your head? Because not everybody can.
Yeah.
Can you hear something telling you what to do, how you should act, how you should look, how bad you are? You can hear that voice.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so apparently around 13% of people don't hear that voice. They think in symbols, they think in that broad, nebulous type of thought pattern that isn't words. Now, this will still, if you are that type of person, this will still appeal to you because you will still be having images go through your mind that can actually be improved upon and that you can to some extent become mindful of and control. Now, I want to start with some of the aspects that really make a difference when we're facing a loss or a big win in the markets. There are three components to self-talk, and this is where it starts to get really quite personal. So I'd love to tell you firstly about the first component, which is personalization. Now, with personalization, this is where you say to yourself, if you've made a loss, I'm such a klutz. I can't believe I did that. I am such a failure. I cannot believe that I did that because I am an idiot. An idiot, I tell you. So it's the type of thing that you would never say to a good friend. You would never accuse them of being just such a moron, but we do it to ourselves all the time. So sometimes we even say it out loud. Like occasionally, even if I'm in the house alone, I will say something random to myself like, oh, off, right? And I'm like, wow, where did that come from? That is very peculiar. So that is the first aspect of self-talk. And the other aspect, other than personalization, is where you're actually making it pervasive. Now, pervasiveness is, I hope you get this reference here, Jordan, with this slide here, is where you think it is everywhere and everything is impacted all at once. So this is the idea that not only are you a klutz now, but you always have been and everybody knows. So there's a social humiliation aspect to this. If you've thought to yourself, look, it's not just this loss, I fail at everything, that's what pervasiveness is. And it can be very difficult to break out of that thought pattern. It can be something that is almost unconscious, where we're doing this to ourselves and we don't even realize that it's occurring. So that can happen. And then the other aspect that we need to look at after pervasiveness is permanence. So not only am I a failure, not only is this always the way, because permanence wise, it's everything as well. So it's almost like the halo effect in reverse. So the halo effect is where we think we're really good at something, like I'm great at being a doctor, therefore I'll be a great share trader. That halo effect, this is the opposite of that. I'm really awful at this thing, therefore I'm awful at everything. So let's have a talk about those three aspects first, Jordan. Firstly,
Yes,
do you relate? Do you relate with any of that I've said so far about the permanence aspect is sometimes very destructive for traders, but also the pervasiveness and the personalization. So tell me your thoughts so far, Jordan.
Yeah, personalization is a big one. The beauty of we at TradeDelicious, we do live trading floors, right? Which means our decision making is grilled as it happens. We have to explain what we're doing. We have to understand when we make a mistake, acknowledge that mistake, and be very prominent in front of a live audience. And that really highlights some of that personalization, that negative talk. And you can even find some of my negative talk in that. It is interesting to go back through and really see what that looks like, because there's times where I've made mistakes and I'll beat myself up and be like, I shouldn't have made that mistake, and everyone else in the live trading floor will be like, what do you want about? Like, you did everything right. And you're exactly right. If it was one of the guys that had made that same mistake, I wouldn't have said what I said to myself about their trading. So that's definitely in there. I don't know if it's a very common or prominent theme in all areas of my life. There's areas which I'm trying not to sound egotistic here. The areas in which I do believe I am good.
And well, we have to.
I have.
There has to be those types of areas, because otherwise we'd never get the guts to take that next trade.
Exactly.
I think with trading, because we're facing so much failure, it brings out all of these psychological issues to the fore. They bubble to the surface. And what we'd think is just our little nifty little dark secret seems to come out in our trading results. So if we can work our way through some of these issues, then that can make all the difference to our results.
Yeah. But as a whole, yes, I can relate to some of this, and I'm willing to discuss it as well.
Yeah. One of the aspects that we find also in the field of psychology and trading, which blends so nicely, is that the shorter term traders seem to end up with more negative self-talk. So it's the decisions that are required and the speed of interaction with the market that you don't have time to censor. You don't have time to say, hey, whoa. Yeah, let's just think about how we're talking to ourselves. No, you are almost in that limbic system, that animal way of relating, that instant reaction. And that can actually make a difference as well. I've got a trader who is a brilliant trader on the weekly chart, really longer term type of view. Some of his trades have gone on for 2 and 3 years, and he tried the 4-hourly system and all hell broke loose, because he found out he was his own worst enemy. It was really quite interesting to see. So one of the things that you can try, and depending on the type of trading that you're doing, but extending out your time frame can help, just to see if you can calm things down and get out of that cycle of blaming yourself.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the age-old saying, sleep on it. That before you make a big decision, sleep on it. Whereas when you're day trading every day, you got to sleep on it, sure, but are you going to look back, or are you going to prepare for today's trading day? And it goes back to an episode we did a little while ago about handling those losses and that 8-day work-through plan. It took 8 days for you to get to that positiveness and realize what had happened and learn from it. If you're doing it every day and you're trading every day, you can understand that you're going to be in an 8-day cycle if you stick to the plan and do that it's a process. So yeah, I can see why swing traders and I myself have been holding longer term positions, and it is a lot more relaxing. If I make a bad decision, I've got time to respond, or I can wake up the next morning and be like, okay, that wasn't great, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. Whereas when I'm day trading, if I make a bad trade, hell breaks loose.
Yeah, it is true. And one of the aspects as well is that often traders become binary thinkers. So it's either yes or it's no, because we're used to making that type of decision. It's either I'm doing great or I'm awful. So that awfulizing, which we have chatted about before, or perhaps even the exaltation, the utopian view that I'm a goddamn hero, I can do no wrong, that is a very common way, and self-talk can actually replicate that. Now, I've got a really great way, if you are experiencing this, to overcome it within one move. Do you want my biggest tip, Jordan? Biggest tip. This is the one word mantra. Now, this is derived from, have you heard of this, Jordan?
I have.
Actually? Yes. So this is derived from the weightlifting industry. There's a lot of diet-related weightlifting type of athletic performance coaching that has actually improved our lives as traders. It's amazing the similarities between that field and our field. And the one word mantra is where you say to yourself one word, the word that you want to focus on. Now, for me, before I lift a big weight, I am saying strong. Okay, strong. So before I go in for a deadlift, I do a deep breath. I say strong, and then I hit it. All right. So for trading, it might be consistency. It might be breathe. It could be calm. It could be pattern. What do you think would be a one-word mantra for you, Jordan?
100% calm. When I'm going into day trading, just calm. Like just calm. That would be where I'd sit.
Yeah. Objective is another one. Clear is another. So think of the thing that you are most trying to emulate. And it could even be that you're taking a lesson from a market wizard. So those Jack Schwager books, Market Wizards and all of the ones that came after them, they are exceptional books because you will find yourself in one of those market wizards and it will give you somebody to duplicate. Now, that one word mantra is such a good way of overcoming negative self-talk, and it's also future self. So you are driving that image of yourself into the future and you're amazing yourself because you are only able to take in 2 or 3 things at one time. And that one thing is going to drown out the other things that you are trying to process. So I think that one is a really good one to exercise and to do. So I do dare you, next time you trade, which will probably be in 15 minutes, I do dare you to get that word, to say it to yourself, to take a deep breath and to do what I do before I do a big deadlift. Because that to me is the calmest thing that you can do, the most clarity inducing, the most objective method. Now, the other aspect, I want to talk about some other practical things we can do about this self-talk. Now, some of this is based on Ethan Kross's work, but also there's a lot of people that are looking at self-talk now because it is such a significant area. Think about doing this. Comparing yourself in terms of vision and inspiration to a mentor. Now, I've heard some people say, I imagine that I'm you, Louise, before I trade, which is interesting. Now, it might be they particularly relate with me, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to summon a mentor, their state, their mindset, their way of thinking, summoning that and inducing that state in themselves before they trade. Now, I think that can really work well. Who would be one of your market heroes, Jordan?
This is you've asked the wrong question here because this is a book that really can be uncovered in terms of like traders or day traders and stuff that I look up to. That there hasn't been someone that I really put on a pedestal and say you are incredible. Like I wish I was like you. Now in the investing world, there's a lot. In the investing world, I think there's a few people that you can pick out. I was a big fan. A big fan of Warren Buffett's work, and as everyone kind of is with his investment approach, so simple. And that's what I really like. But in the day trading world, there isn't much that I'd really put on a pedestal.
And that's okay, because you can borrow from other realms. You know, if you look at Don Elgin, the Paralympian, now we have definitely shared this absolute love affair for each other, Don and I. There is no doubt. And I know that a lot of people have commented very favorably on the interview that I did with Don. Now, Don is one who is not in our field, but I borrow from his views, and I think about his views before I trade, before I do weights at the gym. So it doesn't have to be a direct comparison. Now, the other aspect that you can do, I'm trying to give some very practical suggestions here, because you may relate more with one than another. This is where you can compare techniques with a group of successful traders. So we've been talking about self-talk from a mindset perspective, but there's also self-talk from, does this plan work? Is it a robust plan? Do I have my trading plan to the point where another trader could execute it and get the same results? So that is where the practical side of trading comes in as well. So comparing techniques with a limited group of successful traders that can pick it apart and say, have you considered this? What about that? I don't understand this. You've used these weasel words, the kind of, sort of, maybe, should. All of those words should be banned, because they are not specific and they do not give you the results that you are after. Trying to implement something on the spur of the moment according to the trading plan that you wrote when you were very focused. So it could be that they get you to ditch some of your ideas. It could be that they get you to clarify your thoughts. And after you've got that robust trading plan, it is interesting how your self-talk can actually just fall into alignment, and it's not so confused. We do respond very well to specifics in our mind. The specifics are very important, and it can soothe all of that self-talk if you are responding to specific commands through your trading plan. What are your thoughts about comparing techniques with other traders?
Yeah, I think it's important to learn, right? And to always be curious. And that's one of our mottos here: to always be curious. Figure out, even if it doesn't sound doable or achievable or good right at the beginning, understand what it is, why this person believes in it, and incorporate it. You've always got to be adapting in these markets. So feedback is something you're going to want to hunt for, because someone will be able to notice something from an outside perspective that you may not from an internal perspective. So yeah, I'm all for feedback. I'm all for actionable, as long as the data also presents that that's the right decision to do, and as long as you listen to the right people. Right, you might have someone come across and say, "Hey, stop doing that," but don't just stop doing that. Have some data to say that, hey, I should stop doing that. The evidence based.
Yes, evidence-based is very, very important. And that is the aspect too, that there's the aspect of cognitive dissonance. So if our words are out of alignment with our actions, that can create an uncomfortable state of tension. So subconsciously, you can notice something in your trading plan that isn't sitting well with you. It's not in line with your values. It's not in line with the way that you perceive money, because our money scripts really play with this as well. It could be that you think that if you succeed, your dad is going to go, really? Is that all you're worth? Is that all you've got? I can't believe you're a trader. It could be somebody else's voice inside your head. So it's not just your own self-talk. It could come from the unfortunate passing on of money scripts throughout the generations. So I don't know if you've ever heard that. The one that I hear loudly, this is bad actually, is sometimes when a really expensive car drives past, I hear my mother's voice saying, they must be drug dealers.
Yeah. I can relate.
Yeah. So it's becoming aware of what we're saying to ourselves. And if we can pinpoint the source, I think that can really help. But using that tonality, that one word mantra to block things out, using the ability to compare ourselves in terms of vision and where other traders are that we want to emulate, and also making sure that our specifics in our trading plan are in line with what we actually really believe. All of these things can cater for that self-talk getting into some reasonable level of formation so that we're not overwhelmed by it. Yes. Yeah. What do you hear from previous generations, Jordan?
Oh, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. Yeah. Look, there's a few different things when you see, I come from a working family, right? For generations, hard workers with your hands. And when you'd see someone drive past in a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, the first instinct, YouTube won't allow me to say what it was, is you are and it was just, it might have been the nicest person in the world, right? Really might have been, but that was the immediate reaction. And that's something that's come through, this idea that in order to be successful or be successful, it makes you someone that other people don't like. And that's something that's been passed through.
Yeah. You could lose your friends.
Yeah.
That's a big one too. And that the people that you're with are no longer going to have anything in common with you. That can be a real subconscious barrier to us breaking through to the next level. This is the thing. We are such a subset of all of the voices that we've heard before. And those voices, especially if that we've heard them before the age of 12, recite out of our own brain and our own mouth without censorship. So what we're trying to do with this is get you to be aware of, firstly, what are those voices? What are they saying to you? And then what is the actual optimal way of them representing, still honoring that past generation, but also saying that I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. So that can be a real step. One of the things my mentor, Dr. Harry Stanton, who's no longer with us, but Dr. Harry Stanton told me at one stage, when we hear that self-talk and it's something that we consciously want to reject, we can change the sound of that voice into something that sounds like Donald Duck or something that's like really high-pitched. Of course they're drug dealers. And then it depowers it, it defangs it so that you are aware that, okay, that is something that I don't want in my life. Do you ever hear somebody's actual voice from your past in your self-talk, Jordan?
I've never looked into it, to be honest. Look, mentioning it now, maybe now that I'm aware of it a little bit more, I might. But I've never actively been aware of that, that script that's been passed down.
Yes. Well, this will be interesting. I bet you will be concentrating on this over the next week. Now, I've got some.
It drive me insane now.
I'm going to take pride in that. That's actually my role here. So there's some other don'ts that I'd like to draw attention to, because especially in these days where we are constantly being surrounded by people's highlight reels and we're living our own life going, are we worthy? So don't compare yourself in terms of popularity. So if somebody's got loads of friends, they might not actually experience intimacy with any of them. So that source of comparison can trigger off our self-talk. So if we're looking on social media and we see somebody surrounded by a bevy of gorgeous women and they're in Bali and everybody's half naked, that can actually make us say things that are really cruel to ourselves. We'll never get it. We'll never get a partner. And it's because of us. It's because of who we are. And it'll always be the same way. And it's not only that I can't get a partner, it's that I can't do anything. So you might notice with that type of self-talk, you've got that permanence, the pervasiveness and the personalization all jam-packed into that one little conversation with yourself. Another one that we need to be aware of is looking at people's material assets. So if they've got like the car, the house, the boat, those comparisons tend to trigger us off with self-talk because it's such a way of keeping score in this society. We are so hell-bent on showing others how worthy we are through our material assets.
Mm-hmm.
It's cruel. It is absolutely cruel because it doesn't mean that they are any more worthy. That outward manifestation, that's what they believe success looks like.
Yeah.
And your outward manifestation is what you believe your success looks like. So defining where you want to be in terms of material assets and being aware of comparison, that I think is something that's really important to help get that self-talk to be a little bit calmer. I don't know, personally, that's not my trigger. I know a lot of really, really rich people that go around in gym gear and drive crap cars. But is this something that you've faced, Jordan, at all?
I drive a crap car, Louise. So there's no problems over here.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
In terms of I like money. All right, I like money, and I can't
yeah.
justify spending lots of money to impress other people. I would rather invest it. I would rather now in something that I may use, like a house or my own home or something like that. Okay, I can understand it, but yeah, I drive a 15-year-old Mitsubishi, and it's not something pretty. So yeah, I've got no problems there.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're listening and you're trying to work out where do you fit in on the continuum, some of these triggers may appeal to you more than others. You may be more subject to some of them than others. So take what you can out of this conversation. And then if there are things that don't apply, then that's fine too. Now, the last point I wanted to make is upward and downward comparison can really play havoc with our self-talk. Now, both sources of comparison are important and they've evolved for a reason. So you just say you're here, okay, and you're comparing yourself with somebody that you consider above you. Now, that can be aspirational. It can be that you're saying, I want to be like that person, therefore I will aim to emulate some of their aspects of their life and their methods. That is a positive upward comparison. If your self-talk is the type of thing where you're saying to yourself, I'll never get there, I'll never get what they've achieved, I am not worthy of doing that. They're just smarter and prettier and cleverer and than I am, then that is something to consider. What are you saying to yourself with that upward comparison? Now, the other aspect is downward comparison. So if you're comparing yourself with somebody that's perhaps younger, less further along the line than you are, maybe somebody that you consider to be not quite as gifted, that can help you in some ways because you can feel superior, and superiority is something we actually need to feel as traders. Otherwise, we'd never do this thing, would we? So superiority is one aspect, but it can also inflate your ego. So I have been aware that some traders, when they've heard that somebody's had a big loss, they kind of go, well, thank God it wasn't me, but also what a dick. So that's not positive. That's not actually going to help. So yeah, I want to get back to that point about believing your own superiority. But first of all, Jordan, do you purposefully compare upward or downward, or is it just something that's just as a part of being a human?
I think it's just something that's a part of being a human. And sometimes I catch myself in the act. I do. Sometimes I've compared downward and gone to say things like that, like, oh, why on earth, or what are we doing? And I stop and go, hang on a minute. That was me 3 years ago. That was me 4 years. Like, and sometimes especially when I was getting started in trading and I heard some of the stories of people saying, oh, I lost $40,000, $50,000. I'm like, how would you even get in a position to do that? Louise, I did it. I did the exact same thing, right? I did. So I think that that experience has opened my mind to that a little bit more. Upward comparison. Sometimes I get a mix. Sometimes I look up and I'll be like, damn, am I ever going to be able to do that? And I get that negative in there. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to get there not doing it. So we might as well give it a go. So sometimes I get that negative, like, this is going to be tough. But at the same time, I go, what do we have to lose? Let's go try it. So I balance. I wouldn't say I'm overly positive. I look at that and be like, "You, let's go!" Like some things are scary, some things are fearful, but I balance in the middle. But it's once again not something I've consciously been tracking or aware of. It's something that's just coming out as you're talking about it now.
That's great. Well, the first step is mindfulness, and it is fine to believe in your own superiority because we all need that confidence to be able to go into the market. So think about your one-word mantra, say it to yourself before you trade, and become aware of how you're speaking to yourself. Now, Jordan, I've loved this episode. Lovely, man. So we are going to continue in the very next episode. We do have something coming up called the Bliss Zone. So we're going to leave everybody on that cliffhanger. Good chatting with you, Jordan.
Been a pleasure. Thanks, Louise.